Welcome, Chris Whyte. I met you first through a phone call in New York around 2004 or 5 when I was in Yorktown's offices. And then later we circled back, I think because of Darby on a deal in Trinidad. And I remember you pointing out in 2007, maybe even late 6, that we have a real issue with derivatives and how the mortgage industry has been funneling capital and to look out for it. And we were looking at, this is a long introduction, we were looking at all those cranes in Miami and they stopped working eventually. Anyways, we got through that one. We're in another interesting time. So please introduce yourself to everyone and welcome. Except you're on mute. We'll have to start this again. I have this joke, you're on mute. And then, you're still on mute. There you go. Let's carry on. I can cut that out. Go for it.
All right. It's kind of you to remember that, Mark. I'm Chris Whyte. I'm the president and chief executive officer of a little international oil company called Petro Santander. And we operate in Colombia, and we have a 50% subsidiary in Brazil. We have a little business in Romania and Central Europe. And we have a very mature waterflood business up in the mid-continent part of the United States. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
Excellent. So how do you reflect? You've spoken at our panels before. I thought you were going to talk about oil prices, and you talked about Brazil a couple of years ago. But so I can ask you a question, but it doesn't mean you're ever going to answer it. So how do you reflect on 2020?
The big mistake that I made in 2020, Mark, and I think most of us made, was to fail to appreciate the potential impact of COVID-19 on the world economy early enough. And if I look back on the year, I guess that there were enough clues here in February. So not to make what actually happened foreseeable, but to make the possibility of what actually happened foreseeable. Mm-hmm. So what I should have done was buy a bunch of puts on everything I could have thought of in February. And I regret that I didn't have the imagination to pick that up at the time. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest mistake I made in 2020.
How about you?
The thing that did well in 2020 was once I got it into my head what was happening is we reacted to it really well here at Petro Santander in all of the business units. And we were ahead of the very sharp decline in oil prices and brought our costs down very significantly and cut our capital for 3 or 4 months to essentially nothing. And everybody in the company that made more than $100,000 a year took a voluntary pay cut of at least 15%, going up to 30% for the senior executives on the thing, just as sort of a way to share the pain with our shareholders, who obviously are not going to have a brilliant year with this investment.
Actually reminds me, in Arthur Anderson, we had a crisis where the ruble went from 6 to 20, and there was an automatic. You're happy to keep your job, but you took a 25% pay cut. But we got through that.
Hold on, my office says, I hate these automatic lights, but
I know, well, they're good in some ways, bad in others. So let's talk about 2021. How do you see that shaping up for you?
I'm seeing this as a recovery year, in all likelihood, and And I'm going to tell you that I'm feeling rather bullish about oil prices here in the short term. I think you're going to see another leg up on oil prices late in the first quarter or in the second quarter, maybe even before that, because markets sometimes trade on the news or the expectation, not the facts. So I hope that there's going to be a good recovery in the world economy, that we're going to come to something like a new normal. I'm down on my knees praying that there's not going to be another mutation of this virus, which is not affected by the vaccines. And if there isn't, I think this has a chance to be a much better year than next year for the oil business and for lots of other businesses as well.
Great. Now, aside from making money, which I know you're very good at, what are your philanthropic interests or focuses, foci, today?
Well, I'm sort of focused, Mark, on people that need the money. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there's all kinds of need, right? I had a conversation with a fundraiser from my alma mater a couple of weeks ago, and the chances that I'm giving them any money are just about zero.
What's the alma mater?
Pitt, University of Pittsburgh. Okay. Because they think they need the money, but on a relative scale here across the whole world, they dispose of enormous financial resources, and they don't really stack up with people that need to worry about things like eating next week or shelter or whatever. So I tend to focus on those kind of things, and I tend to focus on them in areas where we work.
Makes sense.
Because charity does, or should at least, I think, begin at home. But I'll tell you one thing I'm pushing for right now that practically everybody can do. Mm-hmm. It's very easy, and I think you have a chance to do some good here. I don't know about you, but I'm going out to lunch, I'm going out to dinner, I'm having a drink after work. I'm trying to live my life insofar as possible, even with this bloody pandemic. And I come in contact with waiters and waitresses and busboys and so forth all the time. And their incomes have been hugely impaired by this event, because there are less people in the, hell, I've been in places where I've had a drink after work where I'm the only person in the bar. Right? Yeah, it's terrible. So one thing that I have been trying very hard to do, and I think everybody should be doing, is to tip everybody egregiously. Just over tip the Christ out of everybody. Because the Lord knows that the busboys and the waitresses and waiters of the world, the bartender, whatever, needs the money. Their incomes have been hugely impaired. So I think you should tip them so much that they come back to you and ask you if you screwed up the arithmetic. So that's my idea for the day.
We've been following that. We're always high. I don't know if we're egregiously high, but I'm with you there. Now, how can we egregiously help you?
Well, I'd be interested in talking to anybody that wants to buy some oil and gas properties internationally or in the United States right now. I am not raising any money right this moment, but I will be again here probably. And I think it's a great opportunity. I think the divestment and disinvestment in the oil and gas business effectively rations capital into this business, and there is no surer way to increase the returns in this very capital-intensive business.
And then what's your one word that you would associate with 2021?
Hope.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to stop recording for a moment.